Hello, everybody. It's Cameron Buckholz from Rock 100.5 KATT, and let's go over the week in rock history from May 18th to May 24th. We got a death, a couple birthdays, and a whole bunch of album release anniversaries. Starting off with today, May 18th, on this date back in 2017, Chris Cornell was found dead after his suicide. Soundgarden had performed the night before in Detroit at the Fox Theater, and after the show, Chris Cornell went back to his hotel and ended his life. He hung himself to death with an exercise band, which is a pretty brutal way for arguably one of the best rock voices of all time to end. On May 19th, also back in 2017, Linkin Park released their final album with Chester Bennington, One More Light. Of course, Chester Bennington would wind up also committing suicide just a few months later. Celebrating a birthday on May 19th is The Who's Pete Townsend. He will be 81 tomorrow, and tomorrow also would have been Joey Ramone's birthday. He would be turning 75 if he were still alive. On May 20th, back in 1997, the Foo Fighters released their landmark album, The Color and the Shape. For my money, still absolutely the best thing the Foo Fighters have ever done, and maybe arguably the only truly good thing the Foo Fighters have ever done. Back in 2003, Staind released their album, 14 Shades of Grey, that most notable for its massive single, So Far Away, which was number one for 3 or 4 months, something like that. On May 21st, back in 1996, Soundgarden released Down on the Upside, their last album before they would break up a short time later, and then, of course, they would reunite and blah, blah, blah. In 1997, Radiohead would release OK Computer, which in many people's mind is one of the greatest albums of all time, though not in my mind. When it comes to Radiohead, I've always been more of a Kid A kind of person. On May 23rd, there is a massive number of album release anniversaries. I'm not even going to get to all of them. In 1979, Kiss released their disco album Dynasty. In 1986, Poison released their debut album Look What the Cat Dragged In, independently released and went on to sell over 4 million copies. In 1988, Van Halen released their second album with Sammy Hagar, OU812. In 1994, Beastie Boys released Ill Communication. And in 2000, A Perfect Circle released their debut album Mare de Nom, one of my personal favorite records. And on May 24th, back in 1974, Bad Company released their massive debut album, self-titled Bad Company. And Rich Robinson will be celebrating a birthday. He was born back in 1969. That makes him 57.